I was recently a guest on the excellent Leadership Enigma podcast for a client of my friend at Emeritus Business School, and I thought I'd share one element of our conversation on the topic of influence and persuasion. This is applicable equally to courtroom lawyers or anyone seeking to influence the decision of any other person. The idea I'd like to share with you is just a small tool to think of your attempt to persuade somebody as a journey. That's our metaphor. And you're trying to move someone from having a belief or an idea, which we might call point A, to a different belief, which we'll call point B. And moving them from point A to point B is a journey. So the analogy gives us a couple of useful benefits, I think. The first benefit is that if we're thinking about it being a journey, we think about having a starting point. And it's really hard to collaboratively walk a journey if we don't start in the same place. If we have a different starting point, we're going to walk separately, and that's never as satisfactory and nice as walking together. It means then that the person doing the persuading or influencing needs to understand or pick up their listener and sort of begin the journey from an agreed starting point. Sometimes you will actually therefore need to say, where are you at the moment? Where do we start? What thoughts do you have on this? And your deep listening at that point gets you the starting point. You go, okay, thank you. Let's move from there. So you connect with them. If you can't, if you're a courtroom advocate, you can't actually ask, let's say, a juror or a judge, what are you currently thinking? So you have to do your very, very best to presume where they are probably, given what they've been told or what the information that's been available to them. So you might say, I understand or imagine that this is how you're feeling. And if you get that right, you have a starting point which will connect with your listener, and you can then begin to walk together. The next part is the journey itself. And it's important that as you're taking steps along a journey, that some steps will be big and you could move your listener quite a long way towards the outcome with some really good points. You may have other points that still move and they're still relevant and they're still useful, but they're not as big as some of the others. And in a perfect world, we treat each step on its own merits, and we sell the big stuff, we sell the big steps tonally differently to the smaller ones. So you might say, what I really want to try to impress on you are two key points. You start to emphasize certain words to show this is a big step. And if you don't undersell, then you'll get full value for them. If you oversell, then they're not quite so sure they come with you. So trying to pitch the size of the step is really what helps us be influential and persuasive. And then we have the idea of when do we have to stop? When have we reached the goal? We need to know what the end point is. And I like to use the expression tipping point. Where is the tipping point where they mentally go from saying no to you to mentally saying yes to you? And tipping points can vary. Some people might say, I'm not saying yes until I'm absolutely convinced you are right. Then you are working with a high tipping point, and you're going to have to take every single step to get you there. And you will plan the route to make sure that you leave no stone unturned because you have a high tipping point to deal with. But it might be that the listener will go, as long as you show me something, that's fine for now. The law is full of predetermined tipping points. It may be that on one application you only need to show that your case is not frivolous or vexatious. Maybe you need to prove something on the balance of probabilities. Maybe you need to show the court a high degree of assurance that you're right. These are all varied tipping points which will underpin and influence how strongly you need to phrase things, with what kind of certainty and how many steps there are to get you to that place, and not to overextend the journey if the tipping point is low. So there we are. That's just a quick one. 3 ideas. Pick up the starting point. Step each part of the journey at the correct level and take them no further or less far than the value is of the point that you're making, and have a clear concept of where the tipping point or end point is, so that the journey is neither shorter or further than it needs to be.